Hello, today I'm going to be discussing the article that I found, and it was titled Evolving Definitions of Mental Illness and Wellness. So, I'm mostly going to be discussing mental illness and what it is and where it's come in America. And the definition of mental illness is something that affects cognition, behavior, and emotion in a person. And in the 1950s and 40s, 60s, and 70s, mental illness was not something that was accepted by anyone. It was looked at as very bad, and the person who was diagnosed with mental illness was looked at as to be crazy and not fit into society. So these people with mental illnesses would be taken out of society and would be put in mental institutions where they were not able to return to life. And they were not being treated there very well, and they weren't being actually treated there. They were really just being taken out of life because they were thought to be crazy. So in the 1980s and the 1990s, a growing need for a better definition of mental illness emerged because there was a lot more cases of people being defined with mental illness, and people were realizing that mental illness was more than just a one definition type. It was really an umbrella term for many mental illnesses, because there's so many and they're all very different and they all mean very different things for a person. So you can't just define depression and bipolar as the same thing. They actually the psychologists took their time and researched and started getting to work on what mental illness was and what it was and what each type was. So the National Institute for Mental Health then said that mental illness needed to be treated. It did not need it needed a diagnosis as well as treatment. So all the technology and research was put into finding treatments for mental illness and what was the best treatment. And obviously today it has impacted us a lot, because whenever someone has a mental illness, let's say depression, they can go into the doctor's office, tell them what they're feeling, and doctors are able to depict what mental illness it is very quickly and treat it very quickly as well. As well as technology and research, the primary manuals were made for associations such as the American Medical Association, and a lot of insurance companies got this manual as well to define mental illnesses, and it was called the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. For short, it's usually known as DSM, and it's now in its fourth edition, so it's still evolving as well, being changed here and there, and it's being used to help define mental illness for practitioners and doctors and insurance companies. So it's really good that we now have these resources to be able to use. And although sometimes, as we saw in chapter 2, that doctors are treating people very quickly instead of taking their time to establish a problem and establish what really is going on, and they're just treating it, knowing exactly what to do and treating it, it's still okay because people are getting their treatment and they're getting what they need. And definitely the stigma of mental illness has gone down because people are more accepting of mental illness. It's way more okay to have a mental illness and get on a prescription and really better your life and get help and be okay, and it's not something that looks frowned upon as much anymore. So that's kind of the evolution of it. It's more accepted, and healthcare really provides for it, for all those antidepressants or whatever medicine it is that they need to be taking. And it's not like someone if they are bipolar, they don't have to be institutionalized anymore. It's more of you get your treatment and you get better, and once you're well, then you will live a healthy life. So that's kind of where this article was taking me, and I hope you guys enjoyed reading it. Thanks.